Welcome to another edition of Fanfare Online. I'm Rich Flowers, and with me is the sports editor of the Athens Review, Jason Larson. And we have some games to talk about. Unfortunately, some of our locals had some pretty good games last weekend.
They sure did. One of the biggest ones that I was really impressed with was Crossroads got their first win of the season. That was the first win for Coach Stephen Almute over there, of course. But a lot of teams had big wins. Athens, Brownsburg, just had a lot of teams. Malakoff had a big win.
Big one, yeah. The Athens Hornets looked very solid again this week. Had a little bit of a lull there, but came away with a win against a Diboll team that was loaded with talent.
Yeah, the Diboll running back was as good as advertised. His name's Terrence Taylor, and you're probably going to see him somewhere playing college here pretty quick in a couple of years. He was really good, Rich. Obviously, you saw him. He had, I think, 71 yards on 2 carries. But the Hornet defense did a really good job of limiting him for the rest of the game. And, of course, they were putting points on the board this year, not having a problem scoring. So they were able to outscore Diboll. It was a good game.
The Hornets' offense this year, explosive, and that's something you couldn't say about the team last year.
Yeah, at this point last year they were scoring about 9 points a game, and at this point they're scoring 30 points a game, somewhere around that area. So there's just a lot of things that can be attributed to that, not the least of which, great offensive line play. Of course, we've had a lot more players emerge for Athens, not the least of which is Kendall Sanders, who's led the team in total offensive yards so far from scrimmage. So it looks like it's going to be hard for teams to shut them down because they finally have that multifaceted approach that head coach Paul Esser has been wanting.
And Watson at quarterback, I think he's quietly come into his own.
He is, yeah, he sure is. He's already halfway to a 1,000-yard passing year and has 8 touchdown passes on the year. So he's also a big reason. He's got great weapons. Courtney Whitehead, great weapon. It's just this is one of those situations where they are multifaceted to a point where it's not cliche as much to say that this is really a team effort. There's so many different ways they can hurt you.
There are yardsticks that they'll pass along the way, and one of those is this one against Wills Point, a team that's had some success.
Yeah, Wills Point was 1-9 the year before, won 9 games last year. I think their coach was the state coach of the year for at least for the 3A classification. But Wills Point is not as offensively loaded as they were last year, but they are still very dangerous. I think they scored like 48 points last week. So it's going to be a big defensive battle for the Hornets, and just a good test, and it's good that they're going to get to go back to Wills Point and try to make amends for the 21-14 loss they had in last year's season opener.
The Brownsboro Bears defeated Crandall last week and did so handily, and they're off to a 2-1 start. Yeah,
and this week's test with Gladewater will be a good one because Gladewater is a pretty good football team this year. The Gladewater Bears are scoring a lot of points. Brownsboro is going to have to, Crandall has struggled a little bit, so putting 44 on Crandall, is one thing, but they're going to have a tougher time with Gladewater this week, I think, and they're going to have some of their weapons step up.
And I guess the Kemp Yellow Jackets are kind of a mystery. We don't know which Kemp team we're going to see from week to week.
Yeah, they eked out the 13-12 win over Eustis, went ahead and went 2-0, and they just got killed in Mineola last week, 61-7, and that was something I wasn't expecting. So I don't know. Kemp always seems to find ways to win games that nobody thinks they can win. Yeah. But Malakoff's also playing really good football, coming off that 29-27 comeback win over Kearns last year. So it's a really interesting matchup. And let me just say here, that Malakoff quarterback Jacob Teague has really, really come along. I know a lot of folks from Malakoff, obviously being from Malakoff, and I'm having a lot of people tell me, he's one of the better quarterbacks they've ever seen there. And that's folks that have been there 20, 30, 40 years. So they've got something special in him.
A tremendous game between Malakoff and the Kearns Bobcats last weekend, and Malakoff having to score late to win that one.
Yeah, and from everything I hear about that game, of course, we were at the Athens game, but Michael Jordan, the runner for Kearns, is an incredible talent. And for some reason, Kearns just stopped running the ball as much toward the end of the game, and that kind of let Malakoff back in the game. So, I just also think that Jamie Driscoll is the kind of football coach that can help a team win those kind of football games. It says something about your team, too, when you can go on the road to a very hostile road environment, which would be Kearns, rival, and win a football game where you were pretty much getting dominated early on. So, that's a good Malakoff football team this year.
Now, you mentioned that Crossroads was victorious in their game last week, and that was a milestone for them. What do we know about All Saints?
All Saints has had a pretty good season up till last week. Burkeville shut them out 24-0. So, I think Crossroads has a chance to win this game. And of course, they would enter every week, believing that they have a chance to win every football game. So, the thing about Crossroads is, I think that Almute has that offense starting to click a little bit, and maybe they're having as much offensive success as they've had since probably about 2002, 2003 in that area. They've got quite a few talented kids on the offensive side of the ball. You've got your Craig Ramsey and your Colton McGlawn and Justin Haregrove, and of course the quarterback Dustin Lee. But the defense is playing pretty well also. So I think Crossroads may be starting to build something. And I know that's, it's a stretch right now to say that after just one win.
Yeah.
But they just may be starting to get things rolling a little bit. I hope they are.
Eustis Bulldogs need to get things rolling. They had a tough matchup against another set of Bulldogs last week.
Yeah, they do. And, right now I think they're trying to find something that works. Of course, we've talked about all season long, at least to this early part of the season, that almost every team in the area had to replace a quarterback, had to replace a running back, had to replace some key positions. And I think the Bulldogs are just still kind of lagging, and it's not from a lack of trying. I'm sure that head coach Doug Wendell and his staff are, banging their heads up against the wall trying to find some combination that works. Nothing has worked just yet. So, I think this would be a good shot for them this week against Quitman. Quitman's, a good ball club, but, hopefully Eustis is starting to put things together a little bit.
The Maybank Panthers looking for their first win. They were competitive last week against Canton, but still came up on the short end.
Yeah, and Maybank is another team, Rich, that I think is in the same boat. New skill position players trying to find a good combination, and I think that they are starting to slowly get that figured out. Canton had beat North Forney, I think it was 63-0 the week before, and of course North Forney is a pretty new program, so
there's no North Forney.
Yeah, yeah, but that's why they won so big.
Yeah.
And but anyway, Canton's a pretty strong team this year, and I think Maybank opened a few eyes when they played within about a touchdown of Canton. So, Maybank may also be starting to figure it out here a little bit. And, of course, Maybank's defense is going to have to play good because Palestine's got some good talent, including Terrence Simon, who's a pretty good runner. So they're going to have their hands full.
When a team is off to an 0-3 start, even though they've been in the ball games like Maybank has, is there a point in the season where they have to start winning, or bad things start to compound on each other?
I don't know. I think it's always a case-by-case basis, Rich. If you look at the Athens Hornets last year, they went 1-4 in their non-district schedule, lost the first district game, and then got things going. So it's never too late to turn it around. And of course, some of these teams are playing tougher teams in non-district than they'll be playing in district. So I do fully believe in the losing can start to really weigh on you, but I don't think any of our teams at this point are in a situation where that's going to happen. I think that they truly are using the non-district schedule to kind of figure things out, and then when district comes, that's when you do have to have things figured out, because I think one district loss weighs a lot more than 5 non-district losses.
Right. Okay. And Trinidad with a big victory last week, a solid win, and they have Blum coming up.
Yeah, they did a good job rebounding off the Greenville Christian loss, and a lot of people are going to have a Greenville Christian loss this year if they've got them on the schedule. So, score 58 points last week was a good sign for them. They're starting to score, and basically they're going to Blum again this week. Probably going to be a similar situation where they're going to be able to win pretty handily. And Trinidad is just going to try to, they've got a lot of non-district left to play. They'll only have 3 district games this year, so they've got a real unique situation.
And of course, Athens Christian Prep, they get the forfeit against Jehovah Jireh.
That's right.
And this week, what is it? Irving Faustina?
Irving Faustina, yeah.
I knew him. He was a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah. That's still a program that's building and working. So they are coming off a bye week and essentially 2 weeks off. So this will be a good chance for them. It's almost like starting the season over. You play one game and have a couple weeks off, and now you play another game. So they're definitely going to be rested for this game.
Those are the games we're looking at this week on Fanfare Online. Join us again next week, and we'll preview some more high school football for the Athens Review.